Hi, everybody. Welcome to my small talk on how to design a Dart package with hooks. I'm Moritz. I'm working for the Dart ecosystem team in Munich, and thanks for having me here at Fluttercon. Please don't ask me any Flutter questions. That's really not my area of expertise. First, some disclaimers. What we're talking today is really just my opinion. This is just this is not meant as best practices, more as like practices of how to do things with this new hooks feature. And maybe or probably I'm wrong about some stuff or all things. So please also come up to me after, like if you see me around, and tell me like why do you do it like this way? Like it's much easier that other way. Like please tell me, and then I can do it differently. But this is like a new feature, so it's like I think it's important for us as a community to start to like evolve some practices, which you then can publish in some blogs or Medium posts or Twitter or whatever. X, sorry. The next disclaimer is that I had a lot of fun with the new Nano Banana model. I tried to limit it to the first few slides, but please bear with me. There it starts. Nano Banana, for those who don't know it, it's this new Gemini thing, like image generation, and it's amazing. So this could be my life, but I have to write packages. So that's like the first bad news, right? And I'm in the ecosystem team. We have a bunch of packages, like 120 or something, I have to maintain a bunch of them and write new ones. So that's a lot of work. And worst of all, I have to rewrite stuff which already exists. So there are already packages doing some things, but because we are Dart and we are a new language, like we have to rewrite the same package to do the exact same thing. Like you already have like, I don't know, protobuf something in C, and then I'm rewriting protobuf in Dart. And so that also happened with, in my case, internationalization. Like there are already like a ton of internationalization libraries like maintained by internationalization teams who do nothing else. And then comes Dart along and suddenly we need to write a new internationalization package. And that's very annoying. Along come build and link hooks, saving the day, and my life is perfect now. Like already, at least almost. How many of you know build and link hooks? Okay, like almost nobody. Then I should maybe explain what that is before we talk about best practices on how to use them. But the best way on how to learn what they are is to visit a talk this afternoon, like scheduled after the one on best practices from DACO, I think like around 2 p.m. or something. But basically the idea is that I want to do like something like this. I have like an internationalization library. This is just like an example where I have like a datetime format in some like year, month, day, time zone style, and I want to format it. And I don't want to implement any of this. So what we did in the background is that we actually wrap around a Rust library, ICU4X, and that does all the heavy lifting. And we do nothing but like a thin layer around that. And technically, it's like 2 layers. Like on the web, we wrap around the browser's Intel object. On native, we wrap around the Rust library. So ideally, like we don't have to write a single line of code. Like that's the rough idea. And to do that, we have these build and link hooks, which bundle the native code. So you don't have to write any like, I don't know, in Flutter, I think currently you have to do some like Gradle stuff, and it's a bit complicated. And with IC4X, it all looks like kind of neat. With build hooks, it looks kind of neat. So you have like your hook folder, and in your hook folder you have like a build.dart, and in that build.dart you can write like, please download this thing, and like where do you have like an example? Yeah, please download an asset, and then add this code asset to my app. And that's it basically. And then you can just like run the code from that code asset. And you can do it for internationalization. You could do it for some, I don't know, OpenCV image library, whatever. And then you have the link hook, which we'll talk a bit more later about, where you get all the symbols you used from that app. And then you can say like, please tree shake these symbols. And then your app gets a lot smaller. Like in the beginning, it's like 50 megabytes. In the end, it's like a few hundred kilobytes or something. Depends on what you use. If you use everything, it's still the same size. Yeah, so that's going back to the talk. That's the rough idea. Here I have it again, like how it works. You need something ideally with a C API, so you can bind easily to it. And then you write your build hook and your link hook, which should also hopefully be easy enough because we have some helper packages to help you with that. Then you do Dart run or Dart build or Dart whatever, Dart test, and success. Okay, now we come to the best practices. I hope this was enough of an intro to build and link hooks to talk about best practices now, but here we are. Um, so write more packages. One thing which we try to do and which I think helps a lot is to have at least two packages, like have the raw Dart API, like you probably have like some auto-generated thingy, like for example FFIGen or other tools which like generate a Dart API for you from a native API. And it's probably not a good idea to expose that to your users. And I think it's also a good idea to wrap that into like another layer around that, right? So you have like in our case, we have like two packages. We have this ICU4X package, which has an API which looks like, I don't know where to have an example of this. Bindings. Okay, that's a bit underwhelming. Like this, which is a bit, yeah, not as nice. And then you have your nicer API layer around here, which then looks like this, right? You have like .datetime format, .with time zone long, and if you go underneath, it does nothing else than like go somewhere, and then you go into your 4x somewhere. Where is it? Okay, like here, and then there you actually call like the ICU4X date formatter objects, but you hide that from the user. And I think it's a good idea to separate that also into different packages. In Dart, there's not a lot of costs associated with having many packages, so you can just have many packages. Like there's no reason to put everything in one package. Yeah, another like good idea, I think, is to give options to users. In this case, like if you have these native assets, and you can have different ways, like in this case of this Rust library, you can have different ways of getting this Rust library, right? You could either download the Rust toolchain and build this Rust library yourself, and that would be like the checkout mode, and you can give like a checkout path of this ICU4X checkout you have locally. Or you could just have like, just please like download these binaries for me. I don't want to download a Rust toolchain. I don't want to have anything to do with this. So that would be like the fetch build mode. And the keyword here is with defaults. So the user ideally should not know that under the hood you're using like a native library, right? Like the user just wants, if you're a package author and you have an internationalization package, all you want to do is format some numbers. So you don't care that there's like some native stuff in the background going on. So you should have like some default, which makes sense. In this case, like downloading, I think is a good default. Like if the default were like the checkout mode and people would have to like download their old Rust toolchain and everything, yeah, it's a bit more of a hassle. Yeah, another good idea in my view is to use GitHub as a CDN. So if you tell people you can just download binaries, then you need to compile those binaries and store those binaries. And you can do that on your privately hosted web server, but that's a bit of a hassle. But GitHub has this cool feature called releases. And with GitHub releases, it's basically a CDN. You can just put files in there and you have like links where people can download these files from. And they have all the different runners on the different systems, like OSs, to do cross compilation, like to all different platforms. So like this is an amazing system. You just have a workflow like which like builds for all different target platforms, things like 25 of them or something. And yeah, and then it uploads all these files to a release, and then you can point to that release to download your compiled binaries. Yeah, also a good idea, version your artifacts. What we do is maybe a bit over the top with doing file hashes and comparing hashes when you download the files, because I'm not entirely sure what the attacker scenario is for like downloading from GitHub. Like, I mean, like somebody could put like malicious stuff on GitHub, I guess, but that person is probably also the person writing the package. So yeah, I don't know. But at least this is like sort of a sanity check that if you download a file from this CDN that you like built here, that you check locally that it's like the right file. I think that like kind of makes sense. At least it gives you less headache that like, I don't know, you stopped your download at an inconvenient location. Now you have a half library and now everything is failing. You don't know why. Like the hash would have told you. Yeah. One big thing is this link.dart tree shaking thingy, which I showed a bit earlier, fight bloat. So try to not have your users download too much and put too much in their app in general, right? Like if your library is 50 megabytes for every target platform, and in your build.dart you say, yeah, just to be sure, download every target platform, then you're downloading like 25 times 50 megabytes. So already like the Dart run or Dart test or whatever, it takes a long while, like, at least the first time when when it's not cached yet. So try to reduce this 50 megabytes already like to a reasonable size and download only what you have to download. And then what I showed earlier with this link.dart, like write something in your link.dart to tree shake that library to remove all the symbols which you don't need because that reduces the size by a lot. And then what shouldn't happen is like somebody just wants to format some numbers and suddenly their app on the Play Store is 50 megabytes larger. And with this, like it should help to keep the size, small. And the idea, by the way, like this is just a small note on how this works, is that you annotate all your methods. You can see it here. Maybe it's a bit small. Probably it's okay. You can annotate all your methods with this diplomat FFIUs, which like this is just how I call this class. And diplomat FFIUs is in itself annotated with record use. Record use is a magic annotation, and record use means store whenever this is called. So what happens is like your whole Dart code is tree shaken, and then we go through the tree shaken code and look at instances of record use annotated things. So we see here a record use annotated thing called ICU4X case mapper destroy MV1. Here we see a record use annotated thing called ICU4X case mapper create MV1, and this is always the symbol, right? And then in the link.dart, we just go and we look for constant usages of this class and take the symbol field, please. And then we have all used symbols. Yeah, easy enough. And then we give it to this magic C-linker thingy, and that does the magic tree shaking. Yeah, and sort of the last point is to not fight the language. So like that happened to me in the beginning, that you have like on the left side, you see how the like the C API or in Rust, the Rust API looks. And there you have all these different constructors. These are like datetime formatting constructors for the year, month, date format. Then you have another one for year, month, date with time zone. Then you have one for a month, day with time zone, and so on and so forth. And I thought this is like ugly, right? I don't want to have like a million constructors. So I'll just take one constructor and give it an optional argument time zone. Like this is much nicer, right? But what then happens is that in like behind this, you need some code to then delegate to one of these two. So you need to have an if else there, right? And this if else can only be resolved at runtime. So suddenly you always include both of these symbols. And then you have to like either do like some manual tree shaking trickery or whatever, and it all gets a bit uglier, or you just like redesign your API to look, for example, like this. Now I still have a nicer API, at least in my view. If you find it ugly, please also do tell me after the talk. But now it is like statically resolved that like, okay, I have here a year, month, date with a time zone, and now like all of the tree shaking works again, and yeah, everything is better. So if you have like the native underlying native API, like you should try to build a nice Dart API, but a nice Dart API which is fitted to that native API in the background, right? Yeah, so here again, these 6 best practices, and that's all from my side. Thank you. We have a lot of time for questions.